Hi, I'm Andy, and I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration of some code that I've been writing, which is a tiny little bit of JavaScript code that hopefully makes it really nice and easy to write tiny little games, just like I used to write on simpler computers in simpler times. I felt like there's so many frameworks, there's so many libraries you need to learn. I just want to write. Sometimes I get an idea for a tiny little game. I just want to try out the idea, and I kind of yearn for the time when you just threw some pixels on the screen and life was simple. Combining that with that, I've learnt some amazing ways of making life simple with things like Elm. Anyway, point is, I think we can make some fun little games together if we use some very simple JavaScript and stick it together with a little bit of JavaScript code that I've written to help make it nice and simple. You can see a couple of games on the screen that are examples of some little things I've written. I'm going to write what I think is probably the simplest possible game I could think of, which isn't really a game at all, using the small pixel library just to show you how it works. So I better get on with it. So this is the small pixel library. If you go to gitlab.com/andybalaam/smallpixel, you'll find it, and you need to download some of the code from it. You don't need most of it. You may as well. You can git clone it if you're familiar with that, or actually the files you need. You only need two files. You need smallpixel.js and smallpixel.css. So you can just download those into a directory somewhere. You should be doing fine. So I've got the small pixel code here, and I'm going to make a new directory, which I'm going to call, this game that I'm writing isn't really a game. I'm going to call the Happy Sad game. I'll just call it Happy Sad. So we make a directory called Happy Sad, and the first thing to do is make an incredibly simple HTML file. I'm actually going to copy one from the snake. I'm in the wrong place. I've done it wrong already. Yeah. So don't make a directory in here. Make a directory inside public. So if we have a look at all the code that's inside the small pixel, you can see there's a directory called public, which is where all of our stuff goes. So I'm going to go into public, and I'm going to move that Happy Sad directory that I just made into here. So now if I look at what's in public, you can see the new directory that I've made, Happy Sad, is here, and also some of the other games that I've written are here, and also those two files, smallpixel.css, smallpixel.js, are here. So if you check out this code from Git, you'll find the structure is similar to that. So it's confusing that you've got public written in the path here twice, but this is just on my computer. I put this stuff in code/public, and then where I checked out the code is into smallpixel, and then inside there's a directory called public. Anyway. So we've made a directory called Happy Sad, so let's go inside Happy Sad. Nothing in there at the moment, so let's copy the directory, the index.html file from Snake. I'm just going to copy it into here, and let's have a quick look at what index.html looks like. Actually, we're not going to change this at all. It's going to stay exactly like this. So if you wanted to, you could change the title, but inside your game will dynamically change the title, so you can actually even just leave this title like this if you like, although Google will like you more if you put the real title of your game in here. So you can see all this HTML file does is a bit of boilerplate stuff, and then it loads up your CSS file, or my CSS file that we've downloaded, smallpixel.css, and it loads up the small pixel code, which is in smallpixel.js, and then it also loads up a script file called game.js, which we haven't written yet. So what we need to do to write a small pixel game is create a file called game.js and put our game in there. And I'm going to try and write the absolute smallest possible JavaScript file that I can, just to demonstrate to you how to use small pixel, what the kind of ideas behind it are. And then in future streams or future videos, I'll probably make a game that's a bit less of a not real game, like an actual game, to demonstrate what it is. And then I'm hoping that just when I get ideas for games, I'll just code them up on stream, and you'll be able to get a feel for it and maybe join in. I'd really like if other people write games. I'm making a website where all these games can go and people can play them for fun. So if you wanted your game to be released as open source, it'd be really cool if you send it to me and I'll stick it on that site. Anyway, so I'm going to copy the snake game as well. So I copied the index.html. I didn't change it at all. Obviously, we're going to change the actual game, but I'm going to copy in the file from snake and then I'm going to delete most of it. So now if I look at what I've got, inside this directory I've got game.js and index.html. And index.html refers to those two small pixel files, but it says /blah, which means look for that file in the directory above. So smallpixel.js is actually inside public, and so is smallpixel.css, but we're going to put our code inside our game directory, which I've called happysad. And we can see we've got index.html and game.js inside there. Sorry if I'm labouring the point. Okay, so let's have a look at game.js. So this is the snake game at the moment, and I'm going to get rid of most of this code and just leave you with the bit that is sort of the minimum amount to make something appear on the screen. So we don't want it to send statistics or anything like that. We are going to set the size of the screen. I'm going to set the size of the screen to 15 by 15, I think. I don't care what the border color is. I'm going to set the background color to one of the standard colors. You can supply your own, but I'm going to say make the background be green, which is going to be a nice bright green. And I'm going to set the title, which is going to appear at the top, to the Happy Sad game, which my friend commented today is kind of a bit of a good name for a game that you play during lockdown, most days. Kind of happy sad. So let's get rid of all this stuff. So I got rid of a load of commented out stuff. I'll get rid of these functions because these functions are just to do with snake. I'm going to get rid of most of the update function, but I'm going to rename this, but I'm going to leave a function called update, and you'll see why I'm doing that in a minute. I'll get rid of this bit, and I'm going to leave another function called view, but again, I'm going to delete everything inside it. I might regret that. I might have to go and look at how snake does things if I forget, but for now we'll do this. So we'll just give a kind of a code name for the game. So the way it works, the way small pixel works is you make a small pixel.game by doing this, put it into a variable or a constant called I call it game, and then you set what size you want the screen to be, what the background color, the title, a few other things like that. Then you define some functions, and then you start your game. And you start your game by passing in three things. You pass in what we're calling a model, which is basically what is the state of the world, what's happening in our game. And you pass in view, which just draws our game onto the screen. And you pass in update, which changes the state of the game every time step. You can actually set what frame rate the game runs at and stuff like that. We're going to just use all the defaults for all that kind of stuff. Try and just keep it as simple as possible. So at the moment I'm starting a game, but I'm saying there's kind of absolutely no state. There's nothing happening in the game. And then I've got an empty function for drawing it on the screen. I've got an empty function for changing stuff. So our game isn't going to be quite as simple as that. But let's start off by just saving that, and then going to our index.html that we've created in our browser, and just seeing what happens when we just do that much code. So if I have a look in here, I've said file, and then the path to my public directory inside small pixel, and inside here I've got the directory I created, which is called happysad. And there's my game.js and my index.html. So to be able to actually play the game, I click on index.html. And you can see Small Pixel's done a little bit of work for us. So it's made a title page, which you can actually not have if you want. You can say skip title screen, I think, and then this won't appear. But by default, it gives you just some kind of title page. And then you can press enter to start the game. And when you press enter, remember that I said we set the background color to green. Well, here's the background color being green. So far it's working, which is cool. Now what I tend to do while I'm actually coding on a game is I'll open up the developer tools in my browser. So in Firefox that is web developer toggle tools, and then this stuff shows. I click on console, and anything or a lot of the things I mess up, there'll be some kind of error message coming up in red in this console. So nothing's appearing here, so we're all good. So let's write our game. So the happy sad game is a game that shows either a neutral looking face or a happy face or a sad face based on what you press. In order to do that, we need to know what the mood of the face is. So the state of our game is going to be very, very simple. So this thing that we're passing in here, in fact, let's make a variable or a constant for it here, and let's call it model, or initial model, let's call it, and we'll put it here. We'll pass it in. Hopefully this will be just a bit clearer about how this works. So this thing, initial model, could be anything you like. It could be an array, it could be really complicated objects, so you could have all kinds of stuff in here. And actually when we write more complicated games, there's going to be loads of stuff in here. So for example, if you're writing a platform game, you needed to know where the character was, then you might say the x coordinate of the character was 30 and the y coordinate was 15, or you know, all kinds of stuff might go in there. For this game, it's so simple, there's really only going to be one thing, which is what is the mood of our little character at this moment. And we're going to say we start off with the mood being neutral. So when we start the game, we say, like a code name for the game, we pass in some kind of model to say this is how we start off, and then a function to display it on the screen, a function to keep it up to date. So let's not change anything yet, so we won't change the update function, but let's draw onto the screen the current state of the game. So this view function takes in two things. It takes in a screen object, and if you have a look inside smallpixel.js, you'll be able to see what the methods of that screen object are and how to use it, and I'll show you some of those. And then a model, and the model is just going to be this model that we created here. And then if we change it in the update function, it's going to change, and then the changed one will get passed into here. So the model could be anything, but it's normally going to be an object like this with some properties that say what's going on in our game. So our game's really simple. We just have a mood, and actually to start off with, I'm going to completely ignore the model and just draw the same thing every time. So let's just start off by just drawing a dot. And the way we do that, I can't remember whether I've got the order of the arguments right, but I think so. We said that we wanted the screen to be 15 by 15 pixels. Now, small pixel can use quite large numbers there, so it could be like 1000 by 1000, and depending how fast your computer is, that's going to work reasonably well. But we've just said 15 by 15, so it's an incredibly pixelated game that we're writing. So let's just draw a dot. Let's make it black. Let's make a black dot at 7 by 7, so just about in the middle of the screen. Now I can't remember whether those arguments go in that order, but I think so. So let's try that out and just see whether that works. And you're going to see me do a lot of switching back and forth to the browser just to double check that what I thought I was doing was right. So you can see it did work. We've drawn a black dot in the middle of the screen. So go us. So that's how you draw. Just you set 1 pixel, and so you can do this. The screen is 15 by 15, so you can do anywhere from 0 up to 14 for either of these numbers, and it will draw on the screen. So that's one way of drawing on the screen. What we're actually going to do is use another function called draw, which draws sort of a picture on the screen. But because I like things done the old-fashioned way, it's not going to be drawing a picture by loading up a picture from somewhere else or something newfangled like that. We're going to draw a picture by just doing some kind of ASCII art right here on the screen. So we're going to let's do some dots. So what am I going to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just doing 10 dots. I'm going to make a kind of 10 by 10 array of dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a standard JavaScript array. So if you know JavaScript, this is the way you normally make an array, and then each entry in the array is a string. And then these dots just mean don't draw anything in that position. And then I'm going to like design a little face, which is going to look something like this. These are the eyebrows. And then we've got to have some eyes. And then this face is going to be neutral. So that means just like a straight line mouth. So it kind of looks like a face. You with me? Maybe? But do you think maybe it should be a bit quirky? Like have a slight quirk to it. Maybe if we do that, it's got more personality. Let's try it out. So when I refresh the page, we've drawn a face on the screen. Looks a bit wrong, doesn't it? Oh, I've gone too far over to one side. Let's get rid of that. So I'm reasonably happy with that. Like it's approximately in the middle of the screen. There's still a dot there because I'm still drawing this dot. So let's get rid of that line. Just draw the face. I actually quite liked it with that dot because it was sort of like a nose. Maybe our face should have a little nose. What do you think? Maybe just reorder these lines a bit. Let's not go too far into designing our graphics, but is that face maybe a bit friendlier? Let's go with that. So that's our neutral face. It looks a little bit smirky, but let's imagine that's fine. So at the moment, we're not listening to what our mood is at all. We're just always drawing our neutral face on the screen. But that's not the way we really want to do it. We want to draw a different face based on what your mood is at that time. So what we're going to do, instead of just always drawing that face, we're going to do an if. Or switch. Let's do an if because I find switch unnecessarily complicated. So if our mood is neutral, we want to draw the neutral face. So let's write that. If model.mood, which is the way we get hold of this property, this mood property, which is part of our model. We get hold of it by saying if model.mood equals, and we always use triple equals just to ask is this the same as this. If it's neutral, draw a neutral face. Well, that's fine, but we've already done that. So let's do a bit more. Copy all this stuff and paste it and change it a bit. And then, so we're going to say else. If the mood is happy, let's draw a happy face. Okay, so when you smile, your eyebrows go up. So let's move those eyebrows up. And, well, we've got to make the face happy as well, haven't we? So let's make it smile. Maybe you're symmetrical when you're happy. So that's fine, but to test this out, we better start off happy instead of starting off neutral. All right, so now hopefully we'll see a happy face if I've done this right. Yeah, so there's a happy face. So we've sort of semi-tested that code works by changing our mood to happy and then saying that we draw a happy face. So let's just do one more. Let's do if we're feeling sad. So how does our sad face look? Well, it's gonna, the eyebrows are going to be back to the normal eyebrow position for sadness. In fact, I think maybe they should droop a bit. Maybe they should droop. Let's try that and see how it looks. But obviously the main feature of a sad face is a sad mouth. Is that sad enough? Let's have a look. So let's say that when we start off we're sad, and let's check whether that face looks sad enough. Oh, it looks really sad. I think one of the eyes should, maybe one of the eyes should be a bit, oh, it's even sadder. Like a bit cryy. Are we happy with that? What if we just made that eye kind of closed completely? Now that... Well, that didn't work. Oh, it just was too quick. Okay. So, no, now it looks like it's winking. Alright, so let's have it be slightly asymmetrical. You could definitely, when you write this, you know, make the art better. So, now we've got a happy, a sad, and a neutral face. And we draw the right one, depending on what mood we're in. What we don't do is actually update what mood we're in based on what you did. So we've done some of the elements of a game. We've got like a description of the state of the game, which we're calling the model. And we've got something that draws stuff on the screen based on the state of the game. What we're missing is changing the state of the game based on what happens. So that's what the update function is for. So the update function takes in two arguments, the kind of stuff that's happening, which is called running game, and the previous model. So last time step we created a model, or we created the initial model, and then some stuff happened. So the stuff that happened is inside running game. So what update does is it returns a new model. So you can return the one that you were given and then nothing changes. Normally you're going to want to return this model. If you actually return nothing at all, Small Pixel will understand that nothing has changed and it shouldn't update anything. So if anything's not working in your update function, it might be because you've forgotten to add a return model. So let's just add it at the beginning and we won't forget it. So the way, well, there's several ways that you can do stuff with to find out what input you were given. So what keys were pressed, or later, when I make Small Pixel better, that might be like what joystick buttons were pressed or stuff like that. You can do mouse stuff, you can do keyboard stuff at the moment, but I'll be working on it as I need it for different games. So there's two ways of doing that. One is you can say something like this. If I received this input, for example, if I received like some input that the up key got pressed, I can just say if up got pressed during the last time step, then I could do some stuff inside that if, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to loop through all the things that happened, because you might have pressed it and then released it all in one time step, in which case we don't want to keep you, if you press up we want to make you be happy, and if you press down we want to make you be sad. That's the game, by the way. That's the whole game. There's nothing really to it. But if you pressed up and then let go of up all in the same time step, we don't want to leave you being happy then, because you've let go again. So we're going to loop through everything that happened and then respond to them one by one. So that's a very long-winded way of saying you get hold of everything that happened. So you say running game.input, and what I mean is this. So that is just a standard JavaScript way of looping through a list of things. And the list of things is given to us, it's all the inputs that happened. And every input that you could get out of that list has a name property. Sometimes they have other stuff, like if it's a mouse click, it might tell you where they clicked or something like that. But they always have a name. So in our case, all we care about is the name. We can just say, based on what they pressed, we're going to change our model. So if they pressed up, well, I've already said, when they press up, we're going to change the mood to happy. And if they press down, if they let go of up, which we do like this, release up, then we're just going to make you be neutral again. And then there's also some other things we might want. So let's just copy this around a bit. So we're just doing another else if. If they press down, let's make the mood be sad. And if they release down, let's make the mood neutral. So this is just, whoops, this is just a whole bunch of if and else if. So we loop through everything, all the input we were given. If they pressed up, we become happy. If they released up, we become neutral. If they press down, we become sad. If they release down, we become neutral. And then at the end of the update function, like I said, we always return model if we change something. We could actually here not return it unless we've changed something, but I'm just returning it every time here, which for a game this simple doesn't matter. If you got a game that uses a lot of CPU, it might well be worth not having a return or returning undefined if you didn't do anything, because it gives some time back to the computer. But we're okay for this. So we think we might have finished our game. Let's try it out. I might find some bugs. So it starts off with that neutral face, which looks surprisingly happy. When I press up, it becomes happy. When I press down, it becomes sad. And you might be surprised that this is a relatively fun game. I would call this a fairly ambient game. There are no real goals, but it's surprisingly fun to play, I think. I like making the eyebrows jiggle up and down. And the sad face is a little sad. The happy face is nice and happy. And we're like smirking a little bit otherwise. So that's how to use Small Pixel. I hope you'll have some ideas for more fun games. Some examples of games that I've managed to create using it can be found on gitlab.com/andybalaam/smallpixel. So you can see this spring game, which is a much higher resolution, still not very high resolution, but a bit high resolution. So that's got like a very small physics engine in it to do the spring stuff. And then a classic snake game, which is a bit lower resolution. And then the heli, which is even lower resolution. And there's also a game which lets you play with Conway's Life. And you can actually click around to drop. So this is surprisingly fun as well. You can click around to drop little gliders on the screen, and they crash into stuff and make all kinds of exciting things. So that if you're looking to do mouse input, that looking at that example might help. So you can find the examples by, like I said, going into the public directory. And for example, if you want to look at the snake code, it's in game.js inside the snake directory. And also, if you just want to play the games or get involved in the community of people playing the games, have a look at smallpixel.artificialworlds.net, and you can see a whole load of fun games that you can play. There's a chat where once you sign in, you can chat with us. You can donate if you want to. But what I'd really like is people to write some cool new games and help with the games that are already on there, making them better, because they're very basic at the moment. Maybe we can build up a little community of people making fun web-based games that could rival some of the advertising-supported websites where kids go to play games, with some much more wholesome free software, open source stuff. So yeah, I hope you have fun. Do get in touch. Make an issue if you on the GitLab if you've got any problems by going to issues here and creating one. And write some games and let me know how you get on. And if you think it's an awful rubbish game that no one would ever want to play, maybe just let me know on Twitter or Mastodon that you did it just for fun. You don't have to send it to me, but I'd love to see what you've been working on. And I'll see you in future streams. Maybe write a slightly more interesting game than this one. So see you then.